What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and in today's video I'm going to do a breakdown of the brand new clan and Bloodline heroes of Lithas. It is the Silken Crown clan. And we're going to try to find out why they have both human legs and spider legs. But first, download Dungeon Hunter 6, a mobile free-to-play action RPG game where you play as a bounty hunter in a stunning dark fantasy open world. Play as a mage, warrior, assassin, monk, or zephyr, customize your own weapons, and summon companions to aid you in battle. Use the link in the description to start playing now on iOS or Android, and see you hopefully soon. Alright, so no, I can't really tell you why they have both human legs and spider legs in case you were wondering. I guess that's a design choice. But we're going to take a look at the clan trait and the stats today and which one's better, the male or the female. So let's go ahead and take a look at the trait first. This is an epic hero, so as always, the numbers are going to be higher the rarity. it's a speculation video, so I just haven't done any summons yet for the mythic. Let's take a look at the trait. Soul Annihilation. Each normal attack reduces the enemy's strength resistance by some percent for 4 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So remember, strength resistance is different from like damage reduction and fortitude. But it is another one of those stats that's going to reduce the amount of damage that you're taking. So I usually like to see these kind of traits hit everybody AoE, but that is extremely powerful. It's rare we get a trait like that, so we'll just have to do on that. That means this is probably not a chase trait. We probably don't need to get the companion just for the trait, but it is certainly going to be useful, especially in controlling matchups where you want your team to live longer. I'm going to take a look at them in the renowned champions section because it's showing the maxed out skills. And I want to answer the question, is it worth it to put all the resources into these heroes to max them out? And we can't know that unless we're looking at the max stats and skills and comparing them to the other champions in the game. Let's take note first. These are mages. I know they don't look like mages. When we read the specials, they don't act like mages, but they are mages. So if you have a lot of extra mage fodder lying around, you can certainly level these up and try and get the speed mask, which there is a puzzle right now to get the speed mask. Anyways, let's take a look here. I'm going to start with the passive and then look at the active skill and then the ultimate, because that's the order they generally impact the board. The passive is Insidious Bind. Binds enemies on the spiderweb every 6 seconds, immobilizing them for 1.5 seconds. So there we got some good control. For the caster on the spiderweb, the chance to take critical hits is reduced by 70% and restore 5% of the caster's max constitution per second. Interesting. Okay, so now we've got control, taking less damage, and we're healing. Lastly, for allies on the spiderweb, the chance to take critical hits is reduced by 25%. So that begs the question, how big is this spiderweb? The impact that this passive is going to have is going to depend entirely on how big that is. But so far, the passive is definitely of the controlling and healing nature. Cunning Web spins a spider web at the current location that deals total damage equal to 650% of the caster's strength to enemies within range for 5 seconds. So it's not total AoE, but it is very, very good to see that it is area of effect. What that is meaning though is you kind of want to bunch champions up. Just think something like female Tide Raiser who can pull them in. You want to pull them into the web potentially. Okay, so now we're dealing damage. In addition to taking less damage and healing, I'm starting to see everything I want to see here. Okay, and then also the second part of this is, after dealing that 650% damage, restoring constitution by 400% of the caster's strength to allies within range. So now we're not just healing ourselves, or he's not healing just himself, he's healing the whole team. If the caster is already on a spiderweb when the skill is cast, the spiderweb will cast on a random enemy. There can be up to 3 spiderwebs at once. Interesting. Again, how big are these spider webs? How good this is going to be is probably going to depend on that. Nightmare is the ultimate. Resets all spider webs binding effects, trigger cooldown, and binds enemies on spider webs, dealing total damage equal to 700% of the caster's strength. So we got some mega damage coming from both the active skill and the ultimate. Meanwhile, All units on a spiderweb gain different effects based on their faction for 7 seconds. That's interesting. And I'm not entirely sure how this is going to play out, but we got allies. Attack speed is plus 34%. Damage dealt plus 30%. Enemies attack speed is reduced by 34%, and then damage taken by 30%. So, I mean, again, I know I've said it a couple times already, but we're not going to know how good this is until we see how big those spider webs are. This is incentivizing you to use a strategy where you're going to bunch everybody together in a certain area, and preferably where that spider web is. How easy is it to control that spider web? Well, all things being equal, let's just say it's a reasonable sized spider web. We have all the components here of a really good hero. We've got self-heal, we've got team heal, we've got reduced damage, and we've got like a really high percent of damage we're dealing out too. So much of this hero's strength is based on strength. So you're going to definitely want to put brutal on a hero like this. Probably honorable too is just a go-to I love to have on every hero in order to make sure that they're not taking as much damage, because when you got heal like that, honorable is so much more powerful than something like energetic, because it's harder to deal the damage in the first place. But then whenever they have to keep trying to deal the damage repeatedly because of heal on top of honorable, that's where you just get really compounding powerful effects. Yeah, those are two right off the bat that I would absolutely put on him. What do I think so far? I think that he has potential to be very, very good. I think that potential is there. I mean, I'm hesitant to say there's shades of Male Water and Sun here, but there is. I don't think it's as good as Male Water and Sun. But what if you have Male Water and Sun and this guy on the same team? I mean, that's a lot of heal and damage being dealt. You think you take care of one of them and the other one's still there. I don't know. That could be really freaking good. Or let's just say your top team has a Male Water and Sun, and then, you know, your second team, you want it to be good for like Guild Conquest and Valley of Conquerors and stuff like that. But, you know, maybe this is like that Male Water and Sun on team 2 if you don't already have a second one like I do. All right. I think he's going to be awesome. So let's take a look at the female and see if she is also awesome. Her passive is Malicious Plot. Normal attacks create a 10-second cobweb at the target's location. Enemies on the cobweb will have their attack speed reduced by 30%, movement speed reduced by 40%. If they take action, they have a 25% chance to be bound for 2 seconds. If a cobweb already exists nearby, the webs will merge and reset the duration. That's a pretty killer type of passive. That's a powerful passive. Okay, Binding Web. Spins Silk at the farthest enemy, dealing damage equal to 300% of the caster's strength, and slowly pulls them in. So, I know I didn't finish that statement there, but just thinking out loud in the middle of the statement, the male and the female actually go together, because you want the female to be pulling in opponents to what the male is doing. Okay. Binding them and letting them take damage equal to 70% of the caster's strength per second. If the target's pulled in, they're smashed and take total damage equal to 250% of the caster's strength plus 10% of their lost HP. Interesting. Okay. Is that better than the males? I don't know. I don't think so. It sounds like the male's going to deal a ton of damage, but you got some board control here, some board movement, doing that facilitation of what you want for what the male has. I already mentioned female Tide Razor is another one that pulls champions in and gets them in one location, where that cobweb's really going to be important. The ultimate, Blooming Despair, spins a large amount of silk to hit the enemy 6 times, each dealing damage equal to 300% of the caster's strength to one enemy. Now that's a lot of damage, because that's 300% 6 times to one enemy. That could actually assassinate an opponent, and that can be very, very good. If the target's on a cobweb, they are bound for 2 seconds. Bound enemies take additional damage equal to 150% of the caster's strength from this ultimate. Okay, so both of these champions, they have control elements. They deal a lot of damage. I think I like the male just a little bit better, though, because he has that self-heal. He has that team heal. And if the cobwebs are even decently sized, this is going to be a really powerful hero. I think the female is very good too. I think the female is a bit more of a mystery and if she's actually good or not. I feel like I just am going to have a hard time judging this until I play it. So do be warned, buyer beware. This is entirely a speculation video, which means I am guessing at this moment who's better. And I think that's the male. But I am going to definitely get one of these, level it up, probably the male. I do want the mask. There is a puzzle quest. I'll go back and show you that. There is a puzzle that will allow you, let's see here, clicked on the wrong thing, to get this mask, which is an increase of attack speed by 8%. Yeah, so I'm going to do the male. I'm going to do the male because I think he's better, but I don't know that for sure. And I do think it's worth some people getting the female and leveling her and testing her out because she is such a mystery. She could be anything from like a C hero all the way up to like an A hero. I doubt she's an S hero, but you never know. I feel like the male's floor is probably a B. He's very likely an A. I think it's also going to be hard for him to be an S tier hero, but since he has Shades, Mail, Water, and Sun, you never know, especially at really high vigor levels. And sometimes these heroes don't really unlock themselves. Their potential doesn't really show until you get just that absolutely high vigor number. Okay, so that's what I think about these two champions, male being better. If you look at it wrong, you might think this is the female. This is actually the male. They both kind of look like females. They both have legs, lots of legs, human legs, spider legs, whatever. Okay, so what about the traits for each of these? I'd already mentioned for the male, brutal and honorable. I also think brutal goes really well on the female, and honorable is probably fine on her too. I always go with something like focused just to increase their energy rate. In this day and age, you don't really need anything like agile, but as long as somebody on your team has the stone thrower trait that gives everybody increased attack speed, that's good. And especially if you start piling up the masks that have attack speed increase, you don't necessarily need that so much. So you have room for other stuff. If he turns out, I mean, I know he's got some protective features, but if he's got high strength and it turns out that he might be a little fragile, you might want to put steadfast on him. Same is probably true of her. I think you're just going to want to protect them and keep their strength stat really high. I don't see any reason to go with like ambitious and get them off sooner or anything like that. I think these are sort of control finisher elements, sort of like support heroes. These aren't your like absolutely come in and smash the opponent types of finishers, but it's like once they start going off and the opponent just slowly is not able to do as much or do anything, and then they're taking heaps of damage from these guys. That's the kind of team I expect them to go on. So I'm thinking you would want other big control types of champs on teams like this. Female Tide Raiser, like I said, already has a synergy. Maybe female Galabar. You know, maybe the male Askavarj could potentially, if you have the female Tide Raiser as well. So, you know, there's ways to make a team that just totally messes up what your opponent's doing. And I think the male is the cornerstone to that. So those are my thoughts. Let me know, of course, in the comments what you think. We're all just speculating right now until we try it out. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And I will catch you in the next one.